I first introduce the background of our speaker today and also the talk. The talk is organized by the library. It's one of the library book talks. And the title, as you see here, Stories Behind Hong Kong Architecture, Design and Structure. We are glad to have Professor Raymond Fung here to give us the second talk of the year. The first one in March was hugely popular and successful.
Thank you.
Let's welcome him.
Thank you.
And about the background of Professor Fung, as you see, you may have seen his works. He's doing ink painting these days, right?
That's right, outside the library here.
Yeah, in the library, one of the participating artists in the exhibition. And before he fully dedicated his time to be an ink artist, he worked for Hong Kong government in the Architectural Services Department for 35 years before retiring in 2008. And he studied in America in the 1970s in Louisiana State University and finished with a degree in architecture. Then he returned to Hong Kong to join Wong and Tong Partners and build up his professional profile by working on various projects. And then it is followed by the 35 years at the government. So many of the public works today that we experience ourselves are the creation of Professor Fung and his team. So yeah, about his awards, he was awarded in 1990 one of the 10 Outstanding Young People's Awards, right?
Well, I'm still a young people.
Very young, yes, yeah, right.
Thank you.
And he had also won 5 times Hong Kong Institute of Architects annual awards. So it is a proof of his continued achievements in architecture. Now he's working very hard on ink painting, right? Yeah. But now today I have invited Professor Fung to talk about this topic, design and structure. Actually, I gave him the topic materials, how the material change in the last 150 years have changed the aesthetic principles of architectural design and how they have also influenced the structure that we are using those architectural pieces today. So maybe without further ado, let me pass the microphone to Professor Fung.
Okay, thank you.
Please welcome Professor Fung.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, thank you, Dr. An, giving me such an opportunity here. But in fact, she's giving me quite a tough question because I saw from the WhatsApp saying that, it's Baroque or Renaissance, lost forever. Well, so this may be the questions that I like to, carry on with projects by myself and also by, my team within the many years in Hong Kong. Well, first of all, I have to make a little bit clarification. 35 years is including 10 years in the private sector and the 25 years in the government. Otherwise, I'll be like 80 years old, okay? So this is about the right, about right that I worked for like 35 years, and now I sort of, transferring to a new discipline, which is in ink art. You can see my ink art at the library. I think this is how we met together because I was invited for ink art, never on architecture. Nobody cared what I have done. But since, she found me, oh, maybe this is also a right topic. Therefore, I can, being a speaker here, OK。唔係刪喎，要係 yes OK。開翻大，開大，yes OK。Yeah, I get it. Yeah, OK. Materials in public architecture. Now I have to emphasize only public architecture because those in the private sector was many years ago. So those were the days. So I'm just coming back to what I'm trying to tell you today is on public architecture, which is my team and of course the very many talented architects in the government. OK。 Okay, is Renaissance or Baroque lost forever? Dr. An asked me this. Oh, so suddenly I think we all know about Renaissance. Have they been told about Renaissance? So this is something that is in the 14th to 17th century, and they know about Baroque means to them. But have they been told Hong Kong has something similar, even though we are not of the same period, okay? But we have that kind of a mannerism, that kind of a style. Okay, now, I give you a few examples first, and then we go into something of my examples. Now, this is a good example. Do you know where this is? Particularly, you can see, of course, the name, Tou Chi, which is the T-Wan Museum. Now, this is one of the very, very early buildings that still exists, or put it this way, it's not yet demolished, because this is the first, building in 1846, and still here. It's called the T-Wan Museum, and this is, of course, a classical style. So it relates to what Dr. An asked about. Is Hong Kong, perhaps in the Hong Kong context, do we have something Baroque? Do we have something Renaissance? Now, let's have a little bit of these examples. The second examples, where are we here? Anybody knows where are we here? The church, right? The church, this is St. John's Cathedral. St. John's Cathedral is the Gothic architecture, which Hong Kong has a little bit of it. It's not much, okay? Because we're not in Paris, we're not in Europe. But Hong Kong has a light touch of Gothic architecture, which is this one here, is the St. John's Cathedral, finished in the year 1847, sorry, yeah. And then this one here, the third example, it's very hard to realize where we are until we see this. Until we see this, oh, is this strong enough? It is not strong enough. I use my own machine. This one. Yeah, this one can kill people. All right, now this one here. If without this city hall, this one may not be recognized by you. This is the Supreme Court. Before now, it's changing its name into a Court of Final Appeal. Now this is the building in the 1912. So I'm following the order. The first one is 1846, and then 1847 or 49, depending on the completion of that. And this one is 1912. Now this is the Court of Final Appeal. If there is any chance, have you invite your student to visit this place here? This one is must go. This is the must go building. Now this is the very, very good architecture in Hong Kong, because in those what we call classical architecture, in fact, most of them are just made by bricks, and unless this one here, because this one is more important in a way, because it was started as a Supreme Court and later became the Legislative Council building, and then coming back into the final court, and therefore it was built by masonry stone, and all these masonry stones were actually materials from local. Now you can see materials. First of all, many of them are just brick, even though they look like Greek architecture. They are just plaster and put paint over. And this one here, you can see this is the Ionic order, okay? But this is really masonry buildings, and architects is Aston well. Okay, very seldom Hong Kong has buildings that is made by stone, because in those days it's expensive, because we are so lack of craftsmen, and material, of course, is expensive. Then another picture. Okay, this one I purposely choose this one because this is the Palace building. I don't want to ask you because the name is right there. The Palace building is the only remaining commercial building of the classical era. Okay, that was in 1923 by Palmer and Turner. Today, if you go there, you will know the whole building is mainly containing galleries. So I love to go there a lot because this is the gallery place for me. And of course, it has very high ceiling. It still has a lot of stonework, and because it's done by a very important architect called Palmer and Turner. I don't know whether you know about Palmer and Turner. Palmer and Turner now they have a short name is P&T, which is actually the same. So this one here is still a classical style, okay? And it's in the year 1923. Now, coming to the last one. All right, this one, anybody? Anybody been to here a lot? You know where? Oh, yeah, of course, Peninsula. Okay, Peninsula Hotel. Now, Peninsula Hotel, I chose it because, very hard for us to find something Baroque in Hong Kong. Now, this is Baroque. This is Baroque because you can see all these very fancy details, a lot of, comparatively, a lot more moldings, a lot of more elaborate dress up, and of course, kind of, sensational, and showing, the glamour and the opulence of a building, and that is the Peninsula Hotel. So one example, and that's it. Now, coming to that, this is gone, and we're not going to have any more unless we are looking for only interior, only decorative, perhaps in a restaurant or perhaps in a hotel. But those are just, very shallow, just the face of it. This is not really of that era. And why? Why there is such a change? Now, the change is because factors that lead to the changes. First of all, item point 1, continuing industrialization led to new kinds of building. Now, definitely, because of industrialization, we have to have a lot more factories. So the whole operation mode has changed from, craftsman into mass production. And of course, this is being the reason, for point 2. Rapid growth in population obliged architects to build upward. Now, again, if you know something about what we call the Chicago style, you know about what's happening in the early 20th of the 20th century. And there is Chicago, there is New York building up high-rise. So there is a rapid growth in the use of building and a rapid growth in population. Because of what? Because after the World War I and II, millions and millions of people, pass away due to war, of course. The second thing is because all those craftsmen were gone too, Either they were killed or there is no more, there's, no more time for another cycle of classical revival. So there has to be something that goes for faster, quicker, and easy to build, and also simple in materials. And therefore, later on, we will have Bauhaus architecture. We have modernism. So this is the reason, part 2, rapid growth in population. 3, political reforms and growing of socialist ideas led to people question established values. Now, if you're talking about Baroque, of course, those are always, led by the power, the authority, like the king or even the church. But after World War, this is a change in political situation. In the political reforms means people, will not building new empire, will not be building, new castles or palace. So there is really a change in the building forms. And 4th, new artistic forms express the changes in human society. Now that is referring to what I just mentioned about Bauhaus architecture come about, modernism come about, and of course last, material and technology found to create new architecture. Now, like in my case here, from small to large, okay? Let me run through that quickly because we have a lot more slides. Okay, I was working in the government in 1988, so it's about 20-some years. Now, this is a very good example to start with changing materials, changing, the general concept of a government office. Government office is normally like here, right? Materials that is common, materials that is durable, materials that is always, not arguable, no dispute. And therefore, we always say, government architecture is just mediocre. And even government architects working in the government always being blamed. Therefore, when back to here, in this case, I have to make a change. Now, make a change in a way of, first of all, introducing new materials. This is you're more like going to IT shop, going to a Esprit shop, or going to a fashion shop, because I think architect's office shouldn't be anything as a common government office. So taking away the roof, exposing all the surfaces. Now this is something as a change in government context, okay? And using, this is a kind of materials that is for what we call acoustic fashion, for acoustic function. And I use it for hanging all the certificates. So this is the first start to change. And secondly, how to present a government office materially is by showing some icons or some factors that is related to architecture in a sense. First of all, a column or a base. Okay, a column itself is in a shadow, it's in a light shadow. Okay, it doesn't have to be materially, physically a piece of column. But on the top, this is the Chinese Dao Gong. On the bottom, this is the Western base. And in between, what connects is the light. The light itself can be read as a column. And even for the coffee table, all these are the paper tubes. Now, all these paper tubes were actually the leftover for, putting the tracing paper in. And I use it, cut it into, and turn it into coffee tables. So this is a material change from the old days where we have marbles all the time, or even we have brick all the time, because we cannot afford to have brick anymore because of very, very hard to find laborers. And because so labor intensive, of course, it's very hard to find laborers nowadays to do, really nice brick laying. And of course, we don't afford to have stone as well. So we always find stones becomes tiles, and brickwork is only for the actual building of a wall, not for facing brick, because those are very labor intensive. All right. Another thing in where the office I designed is I'm using this concrete block to build a wall. Now, you know what this concrete block to you? I think they know about that. I don't have to go back to explain what this concrete block. They are engineering based, are they? Many of them are. Okay, so I can skip that, okay. And also, they know what this thing is for, right? Okay, this is for you to know how exact, the straight line is. Of course, nowadays it's been changed to using laser. Now, why I use these ideas in here? In most cases, even in here, you will have a plaque, showing which or who is the first president or who is the first chancellor from year 0 to now. I think I can do it differently by showing this. Okay, so each of the directors for their term of service, put over here, and then a signature down here, and it goes all the way. And I think this is another way of presenting, the plaque of each presidency by this newer method, or more creative ideas. The other way of designing a library. Now, I just came from your library, right on the ground floor podium. Now we have a tiny library here. The tiny library is shown by having a book. The book itself becomes the wall. The book itself and the wall itself becomes, a signage showing what can be used inside. It is a library. It is also a little gallery and a place, where you have exhibitions. Now, this is a very tiny library, but ideas is there. It's like a book. When you open the book, you pull the glass out. When you pull the glass out, it shows, the time and date, whatever, opening time, closing time. I think this is the way where you can present, a library in a very small scale, yet with ideas. All right. This is the place I don't think you can go yet, maybe later. Maybe because most of you are very smart guys and girls, okay? And one day you become the CEO of Hong Kong, you'll be going there. I'm going there because I have to do the design, okay? But not as a title to be going there again. Now this is a government VIP suite that is situated right at the Hong Kong International Airport within one of the area, an area that you never know. But sometimes, if you watch the television news, you find, our officials always get, stopped by reporters. In fact, they are going into this VIP suite. This is from there, you can go direct onto the plane and then to elsewhere. Now, what's the design in here? Again, first of all, this is a VIP suite. I want to have a little touch of Chinese flavor, a little touch, but not an old screen, not something that is directly from Hollywood Road. So I make the Chinese screen here in a very modern fashion, so which replaces a Chinese old screen, a timber one. The second thing is what is inside here is 6,000 years of Hong Kong, antiques. The reason is when the Hong Kong airport, decided to build there, we also found there are, some of these what we call artifacts that was stuck from the earth. So I put it over there and put it right there, and becoming a kind of exhibition as well as telling our international visitors that Hong Kong has 6,000 years of history, much, much longer than America, in 1776. We have much longer history than your country, but we show it in a very subtle way, okay? We're not just being too proud. We have to be very modest, but let you know, Hong Kong has something to offer. It's a long history, and something interesting is those artifacts that's dug from the earth. And the design of this space here is the main entrance. So here is the glass door. Now, in a Chinese door, you always see 9 嗰啲門釘. I don't know in English is what. Okay, but this is in the same idea. But this is just, engraved, or you can say it's this kind of silk screen onto the glass. Inside there, what we have to be showing to our visitors from all the world is Hong Kong is not just a commercial center. Hong Kong is a place with art, with history. So I put Mr. Jiang Yi's piece right in the center. Now, this definitely changed the perception of our international visitors, because from them, they always see Hong Kong as just a place for shopping, a place for just high-rise, and nothing. But in fact, we tell them we have other qualities. We have culture. We have history. And that is something really amazing them. All right, another place, Hong Kong City Hall. The Hong Kong City Hall, if you read from this book, I wrote this book, and this is how I was, wanted by them. Never, no people in Hong Kong UST know about myself, because I'm just a humble civil servant, hired in one of those tiny rooms in a government office. But until I had this book written, and they say, okay, let's do a talk here. And this is how we start a new journey, having dialogue, myself and the university in here. Okay, this is the Hong Kong City Hall. Why I just mentioned is the book says the designer of the Hong Kong City Hall is actually in 1962. The completion of the Hong Kong City Hall is in 1962, and the original designer is Ron Phillips, okay? And there's also some saying that it's Liu Bunwai is one of it. Okay, Liu Bunwai started the earlier part, okay, because Mr. Liu Bunwai was working for Gordon Brown. But later on, because of the cost, because of the out of control of the whole budget, and there was a change, and taken over by Ron Phillips. But later, until the 1990s, when I was in the government, I took up another major renovation, which is this garden here. Okay, so this is the garden that was designed in 1990, and what inside is a very different urbanscape. Very different. Of course, you have to compare the old and the new. And unfortunately, I don't have the old pictures here, but still, you will see I put much emphasis onto this shrine here because the shrine was there for many years, and people don't know. And I think, as an architect, I think we've got to know why this is in such a position, and how I have to pay respect to it, how I pay a tribute to it, and therefore put this as the axis, and the whole of the cruciform is at the center right there. And inside is another VIP room. And inside the VIP room, again, how I'm going to pay respect to those, celebrities or the musicians or the artists, who have been performing here or having their show in here for the many years. And I did it in this way. I dug out, the signature book, and then seal screen onto the glass. So this is like another mini stage. I think this is a kind of a good experience when you come into the tiny room, come into the VIP room, and then find your name there. Do you find this is a very good respect to the artist who had once performed or exhibited here? Another way of showing signage is important because in many of these government offices, and even in here, you have a lot of signage. I just found that signage here, no drink. Sorry, I got my drink. And no food. Maybe some of you are still eating. And how are you going to present it in a better way, in a way that is more friendlier, okay? So friendlier is to do graffiti myself, okay? Being graffiti, people, I think, more addressed to what is shown there, rather than something that is so, so mundane. You don't even care what is written. But once you see something that is graffiti, you feel, you're, enjoying a small piece of graphic while you're doing your toilet business, okay? All right, Hong Kong Edinburgh Place. This is, there has been a lot of changes for the last decade because Hong Kong is, kind of extending the waterfront, but still there. I'm still very happy to still see this there, but of course they change a bit of the color. Now, why there is such a design? The design of that is because that was the 5th year of Hong Kong return sovereignty to Hong Kong returned to China, and that was the 5th year. I was told to redesign this area, particularly to make sure that all the chairs are not to be, slapped by strangers or wanderers or whatever, and because I think this is very sad. If you always do not allow people to sleep or to, being freely doing something over an open space. But unfortunately, I was told to have such instructions, to put up, some barriers. Then I think, okay, can the barriers be something more artistic? Here it is. Instead of putting a barrier, instead of putting a sign, no sleeping there, in fact, some of you are, don't worry. You are very welcome. You can sleep right there, banging against another sculpture. So this is all walks of life in Hong Kong. This is Hong Kong where people do Tai Chi. Hong Kong people always, have playing with the playing with the telephone, and of course there are some, doing the karaoke, and those are the kind of Hong Kong living that are shown in this manner. All right, and one more little sharing is the paving. Why I have to do this cobblestone here? I think this is very sad, because by doing this, having this cobblestone, that means it is very rough, and therefore to stop people to, sit over. But of course, I have to be, more clever to present it in a more friendlier manner than putting a sign. So instead of having flat paving, I need to have rough paving to stop people sleeping over there. And since to make it more interesting, I add some birds. So this is like, birds, finding their food. So this becomes a piece of art than just a piece of flooring that are so unfriendly to our Hong Kong people. All right, this is a very popular place in the year 2002, because in 2002, that was the year where Hong Kong faced the SARS, and a lot of the people are not welcome to go overseas. And so where they go? They go to the new territories. And I was the person assigned to do design for the new territories, which is, handpicked a place called Sai Kung, to what they call, have 本土經濟, which is some kind of a localized business to extend along the waterfront, and also to let more people come over and do business in there, rather or otherwise. I think just Hong Kong people were so sorry that we're not allowed to go anywhere. So this is how I started with this Sai Kung waterfront. And the idea is very interesting. The idea is whether I do a sculpture or not do a sculpture. Now, back to the early age, of course, back to Renaissance. We have Michelangelo's, we have all those big sculptures. I think those are just, in those days, maybe applicable, because those are for the authorities or for the power and the richness people. But in here, I think it has to be something that is more related to the society, to the culture, to the heritage of Sai Kung. So I created the idea of putting paper boat over there, and this will draw people. You can see a lot of people so happy to stand over it, even though it was always broken, and the owner always, not the owner, it's the manager always complaining. But I think this is what we should be doing. A sculpture is not just for visual. A sculpture has to be something that can be enjoyed by the general public in a very friendly manner. Okay, then what it comes further is this, what we call the tourism center. Now it's been changed, it has been altered, but still, you can see I have the very many, actually it's 10 of them, of these languages to say hello, how are you, in 10 languages. So when Sai Kung becomes not just a place for Hong Kong people, it becomes a place that you try to engage with the people of the world. So I chose 10 languages to show them we are really welcoming you to come and enjoy a day outside. Even when you go to this public pier here, it's not just walking through the public pier, but look at this signage here. On the land side to the waterfront, or on the land side to the water side, you can see the various islands, the name. And when you're coming back from the water side back onto the land side, when you alight the boat, you will see, again, hello, goodbye. Again, very warm, very touching. And that's how a good public pier is designed. And I find that there are quite a number of the movies were taken over there because they find this is so different from the rest of the public pier, with just big piece of concrete. In here, I try not to be having structures. I like to be very light, casting a lot of shadows, even though in any architectures, everybody cares so much about solid and void. But I also care about the lightness of this building. So the building is covered with glass. It can cover, during the rain, but as well enjoy the sun. This is why you have to go outdoor. If you go outdoor, you want to be under the sun. And of course, you still have protection from the rain. But no need to be a very heavy structure. It has to be light and very, what I'm saying, modern. Using a lot of I-beams. I employ a lot of I-beams for the architectures in here. All right, so over there is a series more of a bow. Now that one I wanted to skip because it's a long story if I talk about why I have this bow. But go there, and then you will know more about why I have to create the bows for this, what I call the visual corridor. All right, another place much closer to you, Tsim Sha Tsui Promenade. Now it's going for another major renovation by the New World. So as a poor architect, it's always, especially for me, my architecture never lasts long. It's only for 10 years, even though it's got, Hong Kong Eye Award, whatever, but I think it's going to be demolished sooner or later. But not for this building in particular, not for this one, because they know they don't want to tear away this building yet, but the rest of it may be gone, okay? Now, what have I done here? What I've done here is putting a restaurant by the waterfront. And we need that, okay? Because on the waterfront, always we have to be going into very expensive restaurant or very expensive places like the New World inside. We have expensive restaurant, or you have the continental hotels. They are all expensive. Then why only the rich people can enjoy the water? Can the general public, having similar pleasure? As such, this is later on became the Starbucks. But again, this is under another new term. So I don't know who is taking up soon. But this is idea. I wanted to bring Hong Kong people a very modern design architecture by the waterfront, where you can enjoy the waterfront as well as having, inexpensive food and ideas as well. Ideas as, since this is a restaurant, there's no need to put a restaurant there, or no need to be too obvious. Then the way of showing it is all this, all the cutleries, all the utensils that is relating to eating, relating to food business. So you can see all these 6 of them means all kinds of cutleries from every nations. The same as in Tsim Sha Tsui East. Tsim Sha Tsui East is there's a name called Pak Ling Ge Lim Gong Yuan, which is the Centenary Garden, a bit further inside. There is still a garden. Again, it seems like there are changes, on and off because of somehow renovations is always keep going, and the ideas in here may be already outdated, but still I wanted to talk about it. First of all, why I wanted to design this footprint, this footprint for the floor. Now, as an architect, it's not easy to convince our client, particularly you're from the government. Everybody look down upon government architects as no new ideas, or just, doing things, from the bookshelf, or just copy from each other. And I think we have to make that change. First of all, to convince the client, we have to tell why your place is so important. And our clients means what? Our clients means the Kowloon District Board of the Tsim Sha Tsui. Our clients also means all the big companies within the Tsim Sha Tsui East. And a way to really attract them is telling them, do you want Tsim Sha Tsui East to be the center of the world? Or they immediately wake up, okay, are you sure? Are we the center of the world? Yes. I give them a fountain. And from the fountain as the pivot point, okay, from it, I put up all this, the footprint, okay? This footprint means you are how many kilometers from New Delhi to Tsim Sha Tsui East, and in here, Kuala Lumpur, how many kilometers from the city to Hong Kong. Now, this immediately draws attention as to showing that, presenting it as an international platform where people from the rest of the world, when they found, oh, I love to see that because I find my city has been mentioned on the floor. And now I know how far I am from Hong Kong to there. Okay, this is one of the gimmicks, and it was successful in those days, okay? More gimmicks, but unfortunately this one was not, I think it doesn't pursue on later on. I had together 6 of it, okay? And now they put up 3, maybe, I'm not sure. I don't see anymore, maybe it's already gone. Now the reason I have this design is because I want to bring Tsim Sha Tsui East into a platform for international visitors. So either showing them the footprints, how far you are from Hong Kong. The second point is to say, these are the people from the different nations. So the hats representing different nations or different, different cultures. Or West Kowloon Promenade. This is coming to almost, half of it. The West Kowloon Promenade is a place that has been criticized by many Hong Kong people. Now, way before you know about this Tsim Sha Tsui, way before you know about this West Kowloon Cultural District, it has its first stage and the second stage. The first stage, it was designed by Forster. It's a big canopy, a structure that is very expensive, and as it's such a big span that nobody knows how we can maintain it. So it was, of course, it was gone through an international competition, and everybody get excited by the big canopy because they said this is going to be the biggest canopy in the world. And our governor was also excited because we're always looking for icons, looking for landmarks. And in fact, Hong Kong has a lot of landmarks. You know why we have to always looking for new landmarks after new landmarks? Then the idea was brought up, and everybody was happy, but only for a short while. After some time, when we think clearly, how to maintain such a big structure, such a monster structure. We're talking about a big structure that is covering 40 hectares. We're talking about a structure of 40-story high. Now, very few people realize all these informations. They only see from the model. Now, this is very dangerous. Always looking for a model because you're looking from above. You always see the form. Wow, it's very sexy, a lot of curvatures, a lot of light. It's like big lanterns. It's the biggest lantern in the world. But how about if you read it from a ground level and go into understanding the drawings, then you will know, come on, this is 40-story high. Such a big structure. Where all the columns go? Of course, the architects always want to win the competition. We try not to show as many columns. then it's giving you a wrong concept. Oh, it can be very light. It can be very beautiful. In fact, it may not be. So after some years, after all these technical people, come into place and then try to study a bit more, we find this is not easy to build. And even though this is buildable, but how you can maintain it and how you really, come up to such a big space without air condition. But if you're having air condition, then that will be very expensive. And of course, anti-climate too. We are always talking about ecosystems in nowadays architecture. So finally, the idea was, put down, of course, from the government side as well as from the public. The public complained from a different angle, saying that, oh, this is, always, it's for the 地產商, it's for the property people to make bigger money, to make more money, because of this is so this is kind of tied with the property development. So this is gone. Then comes to the next stage, and the next stage is the idle period. It's the idle period. So I was invited by the government to do something in between during this idle period. Now it's already over 12 years. Becomes a temporary building, becomes more than 12 years, but it will finally go. It will finally go away. Now, for what I have done is, I still put up a lantern, but not of that magnitude. I put up lanterns is showing a good directions from the starting point to the end point. So you will know when you're following the lantern, you will go from one point to another and to enjoy the Victoria Harbour. I think to us, the most important part is not what is in here. It's what beyond here. What's beyond there is the waterfront. It's the skyline. I think the Hong Kong value is the skyline. It's the Victoria Harbour. It's the very nice, backdrop where we have the Lions Hill, we have, the Victoria Peak, and all that. That is what we treasure, much more than the very big or the very tall buildings in the proximity. So I'm trying to bring people to walking along within this lantern as some sort of direction, and giving them very simple structures. Now this is, again, something I have to remind students here, saying that when doing a temporary structure, when doing a temporary project, never ever build very heavy structure, because it will cost money, it will cost trouble, it will, again, giving problems to the next architects who wanted to demolish your piece. So for me, I noted that this is only temporary, even though this has been there for 12 years or more. I think this is a good attitude to design something simple by saying using container. Container is only 40,000 Hong Kong dollar a piece. So I put a few containers there, turn it into kiosks, turn it into toilets, turn it into little office spaces. And so the whole open space remain as open. Now, in many of these video interviews, I keep mentioning Hong Kong is not lacking of architecture, even though you may not like exactly the same in your mind. But I think Hong Kong, what's lacking is open space. So for an architect, I think to be responsible for the betterment of Hong Kong open space, what I needed to do is to make sure we build less. Okay, I always mention that we have to build less for more. Build less buildings for the more enjoyment of the public. And here is a very good example. Very good example is by having the light far end. Oh, 10 minutes left? Okay, fine, don't worry. 10 minutes, I can go very fast. Okay. Okay, the 10 minutes left means you have to come to this far end here and then see this is the turning point. This is the termination point of the trail, okay? All right. Hong Kong Wetland Park, okay, I will not touch upon because I suppose you will come with me on the 4th of November. So let's skip this part here. All right, now, leaving behind 10 minutes is coming to the second section. But don't worry, 10 minutes is good enough because this is done by our team, not me personally, but still, I can quickly going showing you what the building of nowadays by the government really change your perception of, in the past, poor architecture. All right? Another one, Pingshan, Tianshui Wai, leisure and cultural buildings, a building that has been using a lot of fairways, using a lot of metal, which is the steel, using a lot of timber. So these are the modern materials versus the old materials, where everybody trying to use marbles. We do not use marbles. We use a lot of concrete in here. This is the Diamond Hill crematorium. Again, this one is very easy to go there. Tiyuan Deifang is a very basic concept, but always has been so abused, always been overdone. And I think good architecture can be simple, can be very natural, using concrete as well as, the creepers to dress up. And then another Wahab columbarium, using all the timber work to dress up, to cover all the columbarium behind it. So I think these are the way where you can hide, what is not to be, what not wanted to see, but can be in a very, very light fashion. Another one, Wahab columbarium, more to us is like a museum, but in fact it's a Wahab columbarium. Now, all of you are too young. You seldom come to a columbarium. For me, I have to go there very often because all my friends is about the age of visiting this final place, okay? So to you, maybe, oh, come on, this is not where I wanted to see. But in a way, for you, for me, you have to see it, okay? Morris Park also, another open space, very simple. Now, I always wanted to tell people that good architecture doesn't mean it has to be expensive. Good architecture can mean this is a very nicely interplay of forms and structures, very linear structures, but again, very nice, this window shading or screen device that casts, the light shadows. Again, another one, Sha Tin Community Green Station. Okay, how do you know? How can you imagine? Well, this is a place where you recycle, all your, lapsap. You don't know where you put it. Just put here. You put into a place that give you, such a landmark. Becomes a landmark in Sha Tin is by hanging a tree inside like a lantern. Okay, more to see is timber can be very cleverly used. Okay, timber can be very nicely decorated, as well as a lot of bamboos. So this is not in Vietnam. This is in Sha Tin. This is also in Sha Tin, and an angle of it. So this is not in Yunnan of China, but this is just in Sha Tin, very close by the Chinese University. Okay, the Eastern Community Green Station is another of those stations. Now, why we wanted to have this what we call the recycle station to be designed like that? We want to change people's perception again. Green station doesn't have to be very lousy, very poor design for the garbage. It can be a place that seems like more of a museum or a library, or one that is for exhibition. It's still within that green station. And another one, the primary school. This is in Kai Tak area. Again, making good use of materials, concrete in a different pattern. And again, vertical lines with timber and horizontal lines with concrete, with fair-face concrete. Now, in in here, I seem to find no fair-faced concrete in the UST. We have a lot in Chinese U because it was starting ideas of having very simple materials for the whole campus design. So this is an angle of it. All right, another one, Park Shek Kok Promenade, which is next to the Science Park. Again, it's a cluster of building. They are all making good use of material, slate, again, concrete, again, I-beam, again, timber. These are all modern materials. These are all what we call minimalism. Minimalism is in terms of how we make good use of material and have a good combination and turn it into extraordinary forms. See, this is extraordinary forms. This is not in Japan. This is the toilet in Hong Kong. Okay, come on. This is the place just next to the Science Park, another kiosk. This is just in, Kwun Tong, right under the bridge, right under the flyover. There is the headquarters called Energizing Kowloon East Office, okay? Using what? Using very inexpensive containers. And more ideas you can see in Kwun Tong Promenade, because Kwun Tong was once a place for industry. So we want to bring back the idea of industry. All those big containers, okay, now becoming a different use, becoming a kiosk, becoming a pavilion, and of course with lawns. Now Hong Kong now allows people to step over the lawn. So don't have a wrong idea. Hong Kong doesn't allow to step over the lawn. It has already changed for like 10 years. People don't know much about this. All right, almost the last. It's another angle, seeing how architecture in the landscape becomes a new icon in Kwun Tong. And thank you so much.
Raymond, for having brought us such an inspiring talk and many ideas and sharing of his own creations. Now, may I open the floor and invite questions, discussions from you? Anybody want him to elaborate on the projects or his style, maybe? I was about to ask, have you established, do you think you have established a style on your own over the 35 years of your work? Well,
I don't think I'm in that position to say I established a style, because I'm just a very common architect in Hong Kong. And I think the only thing that makes a difference is whether you understand what people want, okay? So function is important. The second thing is using new materials. A lot of time, because people don't want to risk with materials, because they find once you use new materials, people will question you, okay? Particularly using I-beams, and the engineers always think that, oh, this is something to be inside. No, I think that has to be exposed. Then it's always a conflict between, the sizing of the I-beams. And I work with engineers. Maybe they have many engineers in here too. The engineers always want the I-beams look bigger because they think that it looks safer. Okay, but for me, I want to be narrower because I think it's safe enough. So this is always a very different opinion in terms of understanding size. So I think coming over here, even though they're not architects, I think this is even better for me to translate that ideas to you, because once when you go out to work, you notice that slimmer is always better in no matter in what way. Slimmer is always giving you more openness, giving you more space and lightness. So this is, I think, very basic. Now, having understand all these basics, then I come into this design. Okay, so I don't think I have my own style yet. Maybe my ink painting has a style, but not to the extent of talking about architecture. I think architecture, having a style, has to be done by masters. I'm just a very common, humble architect in a government, and now retire from it and then trying to just let people knowing more what people can do and what we try to do and what other people understand us.
We definitely need to know more about the rationale behind all those designs. And here is a question, I think, over there.
Hi, thank you so much for coming. I was just wondering, because I know you talked not a lot, but
Yes.
a few times about using new materials and kind of taking that risk.
Yes.
Has there been any times where that has failed and you've had to pivot?
A good question. If your professor allows me 2 more hours, I will tell you all this side story. Okay. Yeah, definitely. I come across many of this. I come across. Oh, this one,
Because you're talking to them.
Oh, I thought this is stronger. Yeah. But anyway, if this is more powerful, fine. Okay, I think very good questions. I skip all that. The dark side of it. In fact, I come across always problems. People call up to the radio, written on news, and reporters come to me and then saying this and that. But still, you have to handle it, okay? And I handle it in my own way, okay? I seldom follow the government procedures. If I follow government procedures, what you have to do is to, write a few sentences saying that this building was designed, this building was completed in which year and was, passed by which authority, and the date for the legislative council was, so and so, at what cost. I think these are just, very stupid answers. You don't get people to be convinced, okay? So I immediately call up the reporter, or I even try to meet those people who complain me, talk to them directly, explain to them why I wanted to do these materials. I may be wrong, but can we have a try? Being nice to people, being to let everybody understand, the ideas behind materials, the ideas behind even colors, the ideas behind a style, and that I think it works. But it may not work for everybody because I know not all of us, not all the civil servants are so keen to approach to the general public because you will maybe get into trouble of, first of all, somebody, bad-mouthing you, or maybe somebody giving you more trouble because once you get into political, complications. But I always have one thing in my mind. If you're truthful, you're truthful to yourself, what you have chosen is nothing related to vested interests, then I think why not just explain to them? It does. I happen many, many times. I always have to protect my team members as well because they're younger, and so they get very scared when they find, it's on a newspaper, it was wrong use of flooring. Most of the time it's flooring. Yeah, the flooring, slippery. There's always a problem. Or it's too rough. Okay, either way, you always get in trouble. If it's very, when it's very smooth, of course, it's less problematic. Because we always have to work with what we call the handicapped people. We always have to, look into the very advancement of these disabled person requests, and so we try to be smooth. Otherwise, they say the wheelchair is bumping. You have too rough, but when it's too smooth, then you get into another group of people complaining. They get slippery. So always have to strike balance. But no matter how you do it, it's always wrong, okay? Yeah. The only thing you can make it right is explain to them. Really take time, have patience, explain to them. You have to understand, blah, 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 blah. Finally, I'm safe, okay? If I'm not safe, I cannot talk to you now, okay? I may be in the jail already.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Fung, for a great lecture. I just was wondering, the containers that you have used, are they used containers or are they new containers?
Yes, good point.
Yeah.
Good point, yeah. In fact, used containers and new containers, the price is not much a difference. But I think for the government, of course, we better use the old containers, reuse it, okay? I think this is a proper attitude of reusing materials, at least you can make good use of it and then leave the space open for somebody, okay? But in terms of saving, it's not a lot of saving. It's between 40,000 and 50,000. Okay, a used one is 40,000, a new one is 50,000. Okay.
Maybe following this question, because recently somebody talked about the possibility of developing container apartments.
Oh, yeah.
How plausible do you think it is?
I think I did speak about that too in one of the interviews by the Radio Hong Kong. But of course, not the attention on to just the container. We talk about whether we can find more space for a temporary housing for younger people. And since this is one of the ideas, I cannot really tell you further because I was not involved in that design of it. And unless I know more, okay? Unless I know more, I can give you more information. But I know the government has the idea to have temporary housing by way of doing or by this stacking up containers. And of course, why I have to show that here, why Carrie Lam so care about what we call the EKEO. EKEO is energizing its Kowloon office because we demonstrate how containers can be neat and tidy and buildable. Okay, people always think about containers. Oh, why I have to put inside container? That is discriminating. Okay, but no, container is now used by the officers. It still has very nice view because you can cut holes. You can make a lot of variations. The container is just a very simple build form that you can use immediately, and you don't have to do a lot of calculations and just stack it up. And what really hinders is the regulations, because regulations don't see as a permanent structure. So once the building authority changed the regulations as to allow that as a more permanent temporary structure, then it will be used elsewhere in Hong Kong. Okay. This is a very good question, and it's a very sad question as well. Because my favorite idea is to design a museum, but it will never happen. So what I say is, after I retire, I have a lot of invitations to do architecture in Hong Kong, and unfortunately, I have another bad habit, is I like ping pong. So first of all, I got no more time. The second bad habit is I switch on to ink painting, so I actually decline many offers. But if one thing is to design a museum, that is the only piece that I wish to do. But not saying all the buildings designed so far are poor. They are not poor. They have different values. I cannot immediately say which is the best architecture because I think they are just something that is functional, something is a little bit different from the rest, but it's not to the extent of saying, any good piece of architecture in my mind yet. Yeah. Maybe the Wetland Park you will see a bit more stunning because it's a grand scale. If you can join with me on the 4th of November, there's a very big one, 64 hectares of land, maybe the biggest so far, even bigger than the West Kowloon Cultural District, which is only 40 hectares. The Wetland Park is 64 hectares. The Victoria Park is 19 hectares. Those are all my projects, so I know pretty well the size of it. But of course, the Wetland Park is one of the important projects I have designed and feel comfortable with it. I don't know whether I'm happy with it yet, but comfortable because so far I don't hear a lot of bad mouthing of the building. Only thing I remember when it was open on the day, the only comment is, why there's not enough garbage can Oh, then I call up immediately. I call up. I'm the guy. I'm not like a normal civil servant, just try to scare and then hide back to the office. I immediately called to the Radio Hong Kong and try to answer those people. I was not invited. Just call up and say, oh, I remember there was a guy just saying complaining the wetland park doesn't have enough garbage can. And I say, well, I think this is a very good point. We try not to, okay? I think Hong Kong Wetland Park is really a testing ground for people to learn about, preserving your own places, conserving the land, and also giving you a good practice of, keeping the lawn nice, no dirt, no trash everywhere. So, can we, try to protect it? So I answer the one of those who call up, Fung in, and then I think this is the very few questions that is complaining. Otherwise, I know most of the project is very likely to have complaints. Okay, how you deal with the complaints. Okay, I think dealing with the complaint positively, proactively is important, far better than you just hide back and then write long papers because no people wanted to read it.
Any more questions? Over there.
Yes. We still have a lot of time. Yeah, we still have 10 minutes.
Professor, you've
Good.
mentioned several changes in Hong Kong's public architecture over the years, and so I'm curious about what do you think about hostile architecture in Hong Kong? Because, for example, you yourself designed some silhouettes for the benches near the City Hall, right?
Yeah.
And that is to prevent people from sleeping on
Yeah,
the benches.
yeah.
On the other hand, you mentioned that people are encouraged to step on the lawn.
Yeah.
Say when you talked about the
Yeah,
Kowloon
yeah,
Promenade, and that's quite a change. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
interested when it comes to hostile architecture,
yeah.
because Hong Kong has a lot of those.
Yeah, a lot of it. Yeah, so many railings, right?
Exactly.
Hong Kong is the only place in the world that has railings on every street, right, on all the pavement. I think I did respond to that too. I respond to the different levels in the government, and it's so unfortunate. They say they are just being pushed by the district board, and maybe this is a change of mindset. I think first of all, invite them to sit over here, and then share with your point, knowing that people are not really, that hostile. Why we have to be so unfriendly to each other? Why we have to scare people, trespassing? Oh, so what? Just if you are, I think, a better educated city, you don't need all that. I think it takes time. I did refer that to the many officials and keep on going because I still sit in the various advisory committees on waterfront, on whatever, urban design, expert panel, whatever. There are very many of this. And even I'm sitting in those, what we call the okay, many advisors, and I say, okay, you have to be really to be friendly to people. I think people will respect you, but you need to educate them. Okay, you don't expect them to know. Educate them. Give more time explaining. Okay, not just put them sign. You're not allowed to this, not allowed to that. I think that's very, very hostile. You're correct. Yeah. But that is a change.
I noticed in West Kowloon Cultural District, you opened the lawn for
Yeah,
people.
yeah. The West Kowloon Cultural District is, okay, now this is something I think I need to explain too. Once you come to talking about the West Kowloon Cultural District, people will get excited. Why you have to have another authority? It's already LCSD, right? Any LCSD people here? I don't mind you'll be here because I wanted to let you know there are a lot of people thinking the LCSD is because under so many of the regulations that they are not freely to do a lot of things, perhaps. Like, for instance, to acquire something, to buy something, or to invite for some performer. They have to go for free quotations. So a lot of times it's just very stupid paperwork. Stupid, you know the answer. You're just spending all your time on all this very stupid paperwork to get the free quotes. And understand by the government that this is something that binds the hands. So there is the creation of the West Kowloon Cultural District is to have a free hand. It is funded by the government, but it's not really a government organization. So you have a free hand. The same as for the garden. Now, we are now open up, bigger gardens by stages, and we try not to have all these, limitations. No dogs, no bicycle, no girlfriend, no boyfriend. Oh, come on, just too boring. People don't really read it anymore. But let's have new ideas, bring in more education, a more healthy environment for Hong Kong. I think this is why the cultural district has to be established. And in the days to see, I think maybe you can see we have all this international performer having a free hand, on the lawn, sing loud, make noise, whatever. And this is my wish, at least. Okay.
Yeah, with Raymond on the board, you are one of the board members in the West Kowloon Cultural District Authority. We hope that your opinion can influence them.
Yeah,
and
I'm one of the naughty boys over there, so I don't know how long I can be there, but just do my best, okay?
Any more questions? If not, maybe. Yeah, before we close, we close.
Okay.
We have souvenir presentation ceremony.
Thank you.
Let me invite the librarian
Oh, thank you so much.
to present the souvenir.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, do you have can you have a picture with all our audience here? This is a big crowd, right? This is something that I have to treasure in my old years. Yeah, I want a backdrop. Okay. This is one backdrop. The second backdrop is standing over there. Okay, thank you. Now, before you go, I use my telephone. You take a picture with all these youngsters of the future. So try to rescue Hong Kong because I know you have very bright ideas and sitting in a higher level to help. Okay. Well, let's come over here. All right. Yes. Okay, let's see over. Yeah, okay.
Is it possible to get your slides?
I have to check the one of the officers first. Okay, I'll let you know. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. 好，我掛住講嘢，咪掛住玩電話。Wow. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much.
So let me thank Professor Fung again. My students of Humor 2680, you remember to scan your student ID card outside to record your attendance today. And We meet again next Tuesday. Thank you.
Okay, if you can read Chinese, this is a book you can.